Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here with another video from Fanboys Forever. And today we have a very different kind of video. It was a couple of weeks ago that Mattel revealed the snake lair that fans had voted for in October. After nearly a year of work, they unveiled their massive new prototype at SDCC. Since then, a whirlwind of drama, perceived betrayal, and backlash have followed from the fandom at large, with Mattel taking extreme and unexpected action as a result, leaving me to take in all the carnage and finally come forward with my complicated thoughts on a very complicated situation. Thoughts on where Mattel went wrong, where the fans went wrong, and the potential ramifications that this could have on the snake lair and the future of the line at large. So sit back, relax, and get ready for my in-depth analysis and opinion on the biggest MOTU controversy since any given Thursday, as I reveal my thoughts on the snake lair debacle. Before we begin, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, it would be greatly appreciated. And remember, liking the video always really helps this video get shared out through the algorithm. And don't forget, there's always the thanks button if you're feeling extra generous, which was most recently utilized by Mr. Hootie Dean. I want to thank him for supporting the channel, and I wish him good journey. I also want to acknowledge and thank Toy Habits, who took some of the in-person pictures of the playset from SDCC that you'll see in this video. Thanks, guys. Let's talk about my initial reaction just very briefly to the Eternia's choice that they had. This was back in October when they gave us several different options for what the next MOTU crowdfund would be. Accompanying each of these options were some concept artwork of what it could look like. I was really excited. If you remember at the time, I made a video about what I considered to be the obvious choice of the snake lair. I thought it had a great design. I knew that it would probably be iterated on somewhat, but I really didn't think it would win. I thought that, the cards were really stacked against it, and I thought most people would vote for the safe choice, the Fright Zone. I thought that was the shoe-in, or that Mattel would rig it to where the Fright Zone would win. But no, to my surprise, the snake lair, which I truly thought was the best design and the coolest concept, was the one that got the vote. And apparently, I'm not sure if this is accurate or not, but apparently it was by a wide margin. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago during San Diego Comic-Con. The big reveal happens, and I'm absolutely shocked. It doesn't match exactly, of course, what was shown. Instead, it's an incredibly expansive version of that concept design. Overall, it's still pretty much what was shown in theory. There's still, a snake face on the front and a throne and all that inside. But it's multifaceted, it's huge. It even has a bizarre vehicle slapped on the side of it for some reason. It does feel like the snake crest on the front. The facade is a little plain and certainly needed a little more personality. But other than that, the visuals truly amazed me. I was worried about space and I was worried about price because I certainly didn't expect it to be so large and just so expansive. But the interior was way better than the exterior. There were so many cool details on the inside. There was an Iron Maiden. There was like these shackles with like a torture chamber. There was a huge kind of facade behind the snake lair's throne. It just looked so epic. Even though I didn't really like the massive turret on the top of the playset, I thought that needed to kind of be brought down a little bit. But I do remember telling Brandon, the other guy who's sometimes on this channel, and my best friend, what an upgrade from that initial drawing that it was, and he agreed. But then I looked at the reactions online. I'm not sure I can remember the last time that I'd seen the fan community so up in arms. Practically every group on Facebook that I visited, every toy account on Twitter, it didn't matter where I went. Basically, people everywhere were organizing these giant boycotts of the crowdfund, which Mattel said was going to be here in just a few days. So there were dozens and dozens of declarations about how it was destined to fail and how that the fans really needed to show Mattel that we wouldn't pay for false advertising. The pitchforks were out, the torches were lit, people were so upset. But what were they upset about? Well, the complaints were, first of all, the size. People said that Mattel had inflated that original design to try and create something that would cost more. I agree. Mattel probably did see an opportunity to make this something more in line with the Eternia playset. That was their last crowdfund. I don't know if it came from upper management or if it was the team themselves that kind of became drunk with power, but someone decided to really up the size of the thing, which I agree, I do think that was a motivation, but I also liked seeing it become so epic. A lot of people said it looked too generic. They said that it looked like an Imaginext playset. Now, I think this is the most hyperbolic of all the complaints, and I'm sorry if that offends anybody or if you were sure of this as well. This is just crazy. The Imaginext playsets, which I really respect, by the way, and you probably should too, as someone who loves toys, have been the best kids action figure playsets that have been consistently coming out for maybe more than a decade. They've done what other action figure lines couldn't do or wouldn't do. So I don't think that getting on there and saying, well, it looks like Imaginext or whatever, and I know the playset they're talking about, it doesn't necessarily look like it. I think that's a generalization, and I think it lacks a whole lot of nuance. MOTU would have been lucky to have been half as successful as the Imaginext stuff has been. Another complaint was an unwanted vehicle to just bump up the price. I do agree with this complaint. I think that you had this addition of this vehicle that was just so large and distracting to the overall playset. People were upset that it was destined to be expensive. Yes, that was a concern when I looked at it. I thought, okay, originally I thought this would be hovering in the $200 range, but nope. As we would find out later, it most certainly wasn't. But the biggest complaint? It didn't match that original pitch art. I'm of two minds about this. Number one, I wasn't very dedicated to that art in the first place because it really hadn't been around. Now, since then, you've seen it on artwork and some of the Origins figures and all that, but it's not like it's been around since the 80s or anything. So I was always cool with that changing on some details. But I also get what people are saying, that they voted specifically for that design, and if they'd known it wouldn't be that design, they probably would have voted for something else. So I can actually see both sides on that one. I mean, there was a classics concept for the playset, but the design they shown didn't really look like that either. So I never felt bent on it being the same as the original design that they shown. I didn't think that any of the potential projects they shown art for would turn out exactly like those concepts. So let's talk about Mattel's response a little bit. I was very surprised that Mattel didn't just remain silent. Instead, they went into action. They put out a survey, which I and many others apparently filled out. The survey did have some more information in it that I think we all needed to have a better understanding of the playset. It had really clear pictures with just a white backdrop of the playset. It gave exact dimensions. It even divulged what was most assuredly the price that they were looking at, which was $300. And it asked if we would back it. Why or why not? What we liked, what we didn't like. Honestly, I'm floored by this. Most companies just wouldn't even entertain changes at that late stage in the game, and they just put something out, no matter what it was. Whether it failed or succeeded. I mean, look at the corpses that litter the HasLab website from Hasbro. Their crowdfunding platform has been host to so many failed projects that the fans voiced all their grievances with ahead of time, but Hasbro failed to make any changes or take on board any of the criticism, so they were dead on arrival. But I do hope that the information that they got from the survey leads to incredible things. I'll outline exactly what changes need to be made soon and what I hope that they'll make. But first, I really do feel like that there are some unexpected consequences that could actually devastate a product that I was very excited about. Keep in mind that even though it's great that Mattel was listening and that they've made the announcement that they're going to delay this and they're going to come back with a better product, I do think that there's some danger in this sequence of events. Here are the top 5 things that I think could go wrong. Number 5, it could cause a huge amount of the awesome interior detail, like the Iron Maiden and the elaborate throne backdrop, to be cut or minimized. The inside looked amazing, and I'd hate to lose any of that. Number 4, it could shrink the project too much. Suddenly, what started out as a companion piece to Eternia could potentially end up smaller than Snake Mountain. This would have been fine had they started the project this way, but now that crazy people like me have seen it in a large version, it might feel pretty underwhelming to see it decreased dramatically. Number 3, it could delay the project for a massive amount of time. I don't expect to see them bring this back for many months. Changes like this take a huge amount of effort to implement and get approved. There's a big chance that a massive new prototype will have to be constructed from scratch if they overhaul it. There's a chance that we don't see this thing again until well in 2025, so hold on to your boots. Number 2, this might hurt the brand. This had to be the most embarrassing gut punch to the MOTU team that they've had in many years, maybe ever, over the course of this line. Corporate is probably incredibly upset with them that they've wasted a massive amount of resources on a prototype and a campaign that's going to have a major overhaul to be viable. Honestly, I feel for the team and the hurt that this has probably caused them and may have even put some of their jobs in danger. Now, this may cause top brass to actually doubt the validity of future crowdfunds, and maybe you think that they deserve it for making a snake lair that you didn't vote for, but I'd be careful celebrating too quickly. Large MOTU items may not get the green light so quickly next time. And the number one possible negative consequence of this feedback, they might scrap the snake lair altogether. I know what you're thinking. No, in the email they said that it would be back and all this. There's no guarantee about this. They might just scrap it and do the safer choice, like a remake of the Fright Zone. And yes, I can already see my comments now. Yes, that's exactly what we want. Of course, that's much better. Well, not according to the fan vote, it wasn't. I want something new. I want something bold. I don't want to see the same thing remade again and again. And suddenly all these keyboard warriors are everywhere, acting like they wanted the Fright Zone instead. Okay, well, cool, but honestly, according to the numbers, most folks just didn't. Man, that was a depressing and very real set of possibilities, wasn't it? Well, for as real as I can be in these videos, I love to keep things as positive as possible. Without further ado, here are the top 5 things that I believe could go right regarding this delay. So number 5, they could ditch the massive rattle trap vehicle. Apparently this was based on an abandoned concept for a snake men vehicle that I never knew about. However, I don't know about you, but this is the main problem I had with the initial offering, and I let them know it in the survey. It's an unappealing design. It's massive. It looks bad mounted on the front of the playset and actually covers up a lot of the detail. And likely, it added at least $50 to the price of the playset. No thanks. Some concepts get canceled for a reason, and this is one of them. Number 4, it could shrink the playset down just enough to make it easier to display. The size, for as much as I loved it, does make me pretty nervous. I have a huge table in my basement that you see in almost all my videos, completely dedicated to Eternia. That's a whole lot of real estate in my basement dedicated to one brand. I absolutely do not have the space for something even nearly that big. Mattel, maybe you should make it a little taller, because I can handle that. You're gonna have to cut some of the width. I can't just keep finding tables to put this stuff on. Number 3, small changes could delay the project just enough where it isn't competing with other massive toy crowdfunds and SDCC purchases. I want this thing to be successful, and it's as simple as that. It deserves to have the spotlight. And if there are 3 or 4 other major competing projects, because let's face it, a lot of us collect multiple lines, then it probably just can't be. So I'd rather see it get the spotlight all to itself. Number 2, the price could get cut, preferably down to $250 or less. After the devastating price of Eternia, it was important to me that the snake lair at the very least would come in at about $250 or less. With a new baby, that would be me selling things to actually make the money needed, just like I did when Eternia came out. When they said $300 in the survey, it confirmed my fears. Their superfluous additions of the vehicle, the oversized turret at the top, and the added width had indeed inflated the price well beyond what I wanted to pay. It's been said often lately that these companies are pushing collectors to their financial limits with these crowdfunds, and it feels like a bubble that's on the verge of bursting. It's time to embrace cheaper options for the good of consumers. And the number one top possible positive result of these changes? They simply resculpt the front of the lair. Yes, I believe that making a few cuts, like decreasing the size of the turret at the top, dropping that silly vehicle combined with resculpting the front to more closely match the original art, should be enough to make most folks happy. But honestly, we know a vocal minority will be unhappy with whatever they do, because they always are, But I think most people will see the goodwill and effort put in, and it would make it far more successful than it ever could have been. Now that's a much happier list. However, I close out this video anything but relieved. The truth is, I probably would have found a way to back the original version that they showed off. You may think it's just because I'm a completist or, well, a shill, and you can think whatever you want. But I legitimately was excited by what I saw, and was shocked to see the massive amount of criticism that it encountered. So this new road that we're going down, it could either save a product that I was shocked most people seem to not like, or it could ruin something that I thought was epic and special, making it generic and small, just to appease the possibly knee-jerk reaction of vocal negativity surrounding this playset's reveal. Either way, I'm ready to buckle up and hear your takes down below. And I have a feeling that this might not be the happiest comments section, so please, remember that at the end of the day, these are just toys. And even though we love this hobby, it's important to keep that perspective. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you found it interesting. And don't forget that you can support me with the thanks button below if you're feeling exceedingly generous. Again, a massive shout out to Mr. Hootie Dean for taking that route. He's a friend of the channel, and it's very appreciated. And as always, God bless you and yours. Fanboy out.